project wasn't done, it wasn't fixed, why would you list it earlier? I don't know what that's all about, but maybe you could have sold it pending the finishing of the project, which that's a possibility. Like you could say, hey, you know what, I want to buy that house. It's not fixed yet. That's okay. I want to open escrow. I want to get going on it. Then that could be a way that, okay, this sale's here. We'll have to finish this for you, or we'll have to put in some extra money, or, it's already got an exit out of it, something like that.
I've heard of that with leasing apartments. My friend did that. She was going to move into one of the new apartments, but they weren't completed with all the units.
Mm-hmm.
But she saw like a model unit,
Mm-hmm.
and she signed a lease to move in like in a later date.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that in a way, that's kind of how Habitat worked.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically,
Contractor deed.
signed everything, but they were still building the home. So
yep.
I guess that's basically the same.
Yeah, all those kinds of things are fun ways to do it. There's so many different options out there besides the cash only buyer kind of thing. It's a lot of different ways. Let's go into the next section here, default and recovery strategy. So the first signs of default, John missed his fourth payment, citing unexpected contractor delays and cost overruns. We should have been doing a default right around the second payment. If you miss one, by the time you get to number two, we should have action happening. Action to take, the lender sent a notice of default immediately and reached out to discuss the options. That needs to be done right away. As soon as somebody misses their first payment, we need to have a conversation. Usually the contracts will show 5 to 15 days as your grace period, but the 16th or 6th or 16th day, there should be a phone call. What's going on?
So for commercial or business, it's because I know with residential, you have to wait 120 days before you can do something. But are you
before your first phone call?
No. In order to send a default letter, like for a foreclosure.
Yeah. So, yeah. So when you're, this is how I understand it, and it sounds like it's a little different than what you understand. So it could be that either one of us is right, or both of us are right, or both of us, you're right and I'm wrong. It could be any of that. The way I understand it is, if a person is late with their mortgage payment, the mortgage company needs to make a phone call. What's going on? You're late with your payment, or and to figure out what the borrower's doing, because they have to wait 30 days from the contact and offer them, and this is on a consumer loan, not a business loan. On a consumer loan, they have to give them a chance to get credit counseling. They have to talk to them about their options. They have to give them all their options, and they have to document all this stuff before they can file their NOD. They have to put it in that they've done this. And from the time they tell them that to the time they can file their NOD is 30 days. So if they don't call after 15 days, they wait until 2 payments are down or 3 payments are down. And then they finally call and they offer them credit counseling, which is one of the things they have to offer. They have to offer some kind of payment plan program. They have to ask them what their plans are, how they plan to get out of this mess. They have to talk to them. They have to figure out something. If they're not doing all those things, once that's done, then they have 30 days. They have to wait 30 days before they can do that. And then nowadays, just this year, they added on 60 days if it's listed. And wait, no. Yeah, 60 days if it's listed before you can file the notice of default, but the notice of sale gets 60 days for listing and another 60 days if you have an accepted offer. That came in January of this year. So my understanding is it doesn't go the whole 120 days. I think you have to give them 90 days, and then it's 120 if you didn't give them credit counseling until after the 90 days elapsed. And my understanding is if you give them the credit counseling offer earlier than that, you can still do the NOD at 90. So I'll have to check into that, but that's how I understand it.
Yeah, a little confusing because this all happened during COVID when everything was.
Oh, that's completely different.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But
completely different.
I thought that they said that I couldn't send a notice of default until 120 days. Like up until 120, it would still be considered delinquent, and then it wouldn't be. They couldn't send the notice of default until after 120. I think that's how I understood it. But this was also during COVID, so maybe things had changed.
Yeah,
Or
there was a moratorium on filing foreclosure during that time, and yeah, there you couldn't. A lot of companies just couldn't even file at all for 2 years. So
yeah,
it's a
so I
weird.
know a lot of things were changed, but I thought that like normally that's what would have
Yeah,
been.
the standard was 90 days for NOD, or well, the standard was you could be late and you could file the NOD after 30 days. Um, in and that's changed to where I think they have to have the 30-day notice, and it depends on when. And then on commercial, it doesn't matter. This isn't how it works at all. So the quickest time you could get somebody to the sale date, the way I understand it, was 30, 90, 120, and 21 days, 141 days to the sale date if everything went perfect, and it never does. That's way quick for what it is. And they're supposedly, the way they count it when they explain it is, oh, they only count the NOD to the sale date, which is 121 days. But that you have to be late first before you can file an NOD. So that doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's like, let's be real, folks. They got to be late first. You got to give them a chance to figure a workaround. You have to talk to them on a consumer deal. You don't have to do that on a business deal, which, by the way, as our company, we just do business deals. We don't do the consumer loans. We don't do commercial loans. Then the rules are you're dealing with a professional who knows what they're doing. You don't have to handhold and do all this hand kid stuff that you do with the consumer, which is fine. They need to know that because obviously, their lives are such that they're not going to focus on these details. Where if somebody's an investor, they need to focus on these details. They need to know this stuff or not play in the sandbox. So I get it, and I think it's a great way of how it's set up. I don't have any problems with it. I think I hate to see anybody get foreclosed on, but there's circumstances where it has to be done. Both parties need to be made whole, and that's how life is. Sometimes it's unfair, but you're trying to make the best fare for both people, or both parties. And so I like to do the business transactions. It's so much cleaner and quicker, and you're not having the kind of issues. But again, that's back to diversification. If you're doing a residential property, that's going to require that you be aware of the consumer part. Whereas if you stuck with just rentals, so let's say it's somebody's rental, it could be a single family home, but it's a rental. They don't live in it. That's a business purpose loan. And then you can diversify in that level. You're not getting into just the 5 and above units or apartment complexes or strip centers or malls or all storage buildings or any of that kind of stuff. You can still do commercial in a single family home, but it's got to be a rental. It's got to be for commercial purposes or one of those short-term deals, of Airbnb type stuff. One of those. So let's see what else they've got for me on the list here. As the lender worked with John to sell the property at a slight discount rather than foreclosure, recovering 90% of this was their resolution they worked out. The lender worked with John to sell the property at a slight discount rather than foreclosing, recovering 90% of the principal. The lender avoided a costly foreclosure process and learned to include a contingency plan clause in future loans, which was that interest that we collected for 6 months in the future. So the key takeaways on mitigating default and risk in this particular scenario: stronger due diligence, evaluate the borrower's experience for projects of a similar scale, Conservative lending practices keep the LTV below 65%. For riskier flips, I would do it for all flips. I wouldn't consider risky ones. Anything above 65 is risky to me. Tighter fund disbursement controls, so smaller draws tied to completed inspections, which we talked about. Pre-funded interest reserves ensure at least 6 months of payments are collected up front. And an exit strategy enforcement require multiple exit plans, including pre-listing conditions. So in this particular case study underscores why default prevention starts at loan structuring and why ongoing borrower communication is critical to mitigation before they escalate. Okay, pretty darn good. So we're not all the way through this, and we're at step number 4 out of, yeah, we got one more step to go here. Do you have more time to go past? We're at 5:15. Are you okay to hang?
I'm good. This is so much better than listening to Siri teach you this. I wish you were the actual instructor, because I've been listening to that lady for hours this week, trying to get the modules in by next. So
Oh, that'd be crazy. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
let's go ahead then. If you're okay with that, I'm okay with it. Let's finish it up. I'm happy to do that. So we did
thank you so
identifying
much,
risk.
by the way. I really appreciate this.
Oh, it's no problem. You're helping me too. I'm promoting our talks. I'm sharing it and making shorts, and I'm trying to find other people, and I'm grateful to get to know you. I love you. You're great. So you asked me last week. You asked me some great questions, and I lost the recording. I was crying about it. Not,
Oh,
but I was like, oh crud, that was such a good chat that we had. It was great, and I lost it. I was like so disappointed. But
you deleted it?
you know what?
Because
I didn't hit
I
the,
remember seeing it pop up saying this is being recorded, and I pressed OK.
but it didn't record somehow. Somehow or another, I lost it. So this one's showing it's recording, but yeah, I don't know. Can you wait a little bit? It'll be okay. It'll be just a minute. We're almost done. He's a Belgian Malinois, and he's like a 3-year-old. He's smart. He's just an amazing dog. So let's take a look at the next section here. So this one is how to handle foreclosure in a scenario. Is that right? Yeah, that's the next section. So we need to understand the foreclosure laws and the processes in the state where the property is. So I don't know about you, but I end up looking up in the civil code. I look for this stuff. I Google it, or I ask ChatGPT or Claude, or whatever. Now I've been asking Gronk, and I'll try and do that DeepSeek as well. I'll ask them all to answer it, because used to Google it, and I probably beat this horse to death, but used to go to the library, use the Dewey Decimal System.
Love the library. I just came from the library because
Yeah,
I that's how I'm doing the studying. And
yeah, it's and I've lived in libraries, and when I was in college, that's where I hung out. It was right next to the student training center, so I did tutoring, and then I'd study and tutor, and I'd go to school at 7 in the morning. I'd leave at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and had a great college fun time. It was awesome. I went to work. I didn't play much, and I was really surprised. I had my head down the whole time, and when I did the walk, at the end you do the graduation ceremony. I was completely taken aback, because I had helped literally hundreds and hundreds of people tutoring over the 4 years. And when I walked, I got the largest applause. It just blew me away. I didn't know people liked me. I didn't know that at all. It was really fascinating. So I kind of, it's a real warm spot that I helped so many people in college. It was just really nice.
I mean, I think you're a good tutor. Like you're good. You're obviously good at teaching. That's why I wish you were the teacher instead of
Well, thank you.
Siri.
So we're going to try and find those foreclosure laws in our state. Like I said, I use the uh, the civil code. Another thing that I've used that I think is kind of a secret sauce that I found all the way back. Gosh, it was in I think it was 1978 or 1979. There's a publisher in Berkeley called No Low Press. This is a pro tip. NoLowPress.com, NOLO.com. These guys write books on the legal processes for regular folks to read. So you can go in there and read the foreclosure process. You can go in there and read the trust process, how to build a trust. You know, all the things that you're going to need in your life if you're in real estate and investing in real estate. These guys are your go-to source for the books on the specific subject that you want to figure out. And nowadays, they're even better because they come with on CD or they come online. And so you can interact with them on your computer and you can search the words better. Like we used to have to remember what section was what. Now you can do, you know, Alt find or Control Command find, Command F, and find all the instances of the word in the book. That's just so much better. So much better. Have you seen?
I think I saw this at the library when I was there.
Yeah, they're in all the libraries. NOLO.com. They have
I
fantastic.
think I don't know if it was Nolo, but I saw it when I was in the library and it was on foreclosure, and this was the same week that I was doing the.
Hmm?
So it caught my eye, and I actually picked it up and I read it. I didn't check it out, but I think it was this one
Yeah, it's
actually.
probably they've been around publishing legal help for non-lawyers by lawyers. These are lawyers publish these books. Some of the best material you'll ever
It was
find.
because that's where I read about the bankruptcy, and
Mm-hmm.
they
Yeah,
just put it in such like easy to understand terms, and
mm-hmm.
that's how I read about the different types of bankruptcy. And
Yep.
I felt a little bit better after reading it, because when the attorney was telling me about the bankruptcy, I just kind of freaked out a little bit because I didn't know anything. But then I saw that, and yeah.
Yeah, it's good time. So that's one of my favorite companies to spend money at in my real estate career over the years. That's been the most consistent source of solid, up-to-date information. Get the latest copy. It covers, they go across the whole country, all the states. You know, it's good stuff. All right, so now that gives us an idea of where we can figure out and understand stuff. Steps to take if a borrower defaults. Okay, so you and I both decided that a servicing company and a trustee, a foreclosure service company is the best way to go. I don't know that I want to deal with any of that. I'd rather have those companies do it and pay them. Their fees are tiny compared to the knowledge that you get and the cost. And if you make a mistake, it could be thousands of dollars. So I would definitely recommend, you know, hiring somebody to do that. They say send notice, work with a trustee, blah blah blah, whatever. But in exploring workout options and repayment modifications, these companies that specialize in the foreclosure, they're going to be talking to you about that, I would assume, any kind of workouts that you want to do. So, and if your company's not doing that, maybe another one. Calculating the costs and timeline of the foreclosure. So, yeah, that's kind of standard, just operating your business. Basically, you're going to figure out what it costs you to in interest every month, what the filing fees are, and what the court costs are, all the all the time and money that goes into it, and what the time frame is going to be. And you can ask. Usually, you should be able to ask an attorney what's the time frame going to be. And they're not. They're going to give you a kind of a hazy answer because it's going to depend on what the borrower does. Mm-hmm. But you should, as your career goes on, you should get a pretty good idea. Like, okay, if they file a bankruptcy, it's going to add another 6 weeks. If they do this, it's going to, you're going to kind of figure it out after a minute. So you'll get that in your head. What happens after foreclosure? It's a good idea to get that in your mind. So you'll have a trustee's deed. You're familiar with that, right? You get a trustee's deed.
After the foreclosure?
Yeah, so let's say you go to foreclosure and at the sale, the property doesn't sell. So you as the lender, you get the property back. the auction, no one outbids what you're owed. So you get the property back. So you're going to get a trustee's deed and transfers it back to you.
So for mine, I don't know if it's different, but they said it's not gonna it doesn't it's not a foreclosure, it's a forfeiture because it's a land contract. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
said that I don't have to do the sale, the auction.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
because it's a contract, so you have to do a judicial foreclosure basically, where you're going and the judge is going to tell you it's a
mhm,
forfeiture, you lose, give them the property.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that was a good thing. That's why they said it's because it's a land contract.
yep,
So but then every time I say land contract, people always, like I think you mentioned it too. They just made it seem like land contracts are not good, but I
yeah,
just felt like, well, in this case, it was good because I don't have to do a
yeah.
sale.
Yeah,
The forfeiture
once
is
they
cheaper.
exactly in a land contract, as soon as someone violates the terms of the agreement, the contract, then you have a breach. And once you have a breach, then you have an actionable cause, which is a lawsuit, right? So you go to the judge and you say, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, here's proof, here's yada, yada, yada. The judge says, yep, you proved it. You need to do this, you need to do this. I order this. And, they put out a writ of execution. The writ of execution requires that the county recorder issue you, blah, 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 whatever, right? So, yeah, it's a different process than the trustee's sale with that. So, yeah, I didn't understand that when we were first talking, but yeah, it's a different process. So, there's two different ones, judicial and non judicial. So, yours is a judicial because you have a contract instead of a deed of trust, which in the deed of trust, it gives the borrower grants the power to the trustee to sell the property if they don't make the payments. It also grants the power to do some other things, like let's say they abuse the property and the county comes by and says, hey, you're putting nuclear waste on this property. It allows you to purchase the repair to clean it up and add it to the balance of what they owe you so that it doesn't damage the value of your note or your property. It has a lot of cool stuff in the deed of trust that help you out as an investor or a lender. So they're worth a read, and that's just a different strategy. It's a non-judicial foreclosure. It's faster, and that's the ones I do. I do all that style. I don't do the contract ones. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, well, let's try another real world case study that's not a real world case study. It's AI. All right. So, and this is the scenario. 1922, Amanda's private lending, hard money lender in California, funded a $400,000 loan for a borrower, Mark Stevens, who planned to renovate and sell a duplex in Oakland. Oh, Mark. Oakland? Okay. There are some good parts. Have you been to Montclair in Oakland? So Oakland is down on the water, and then up the hill, up towards the back of it, it goes up on the hill. That's Montclair of Oakland. And so when you're sitting up on that hill, you overlook the bay. It's gorgeous, just like the Berkeley Hills. It's beautiful, beautiful views. So completely different neighborhood. So it depends on which part of Oakland this duplex.
I've been to regular Oakland.
Oh, you've been to regular Oakland? Well,
It was a long time ago, and not recently. I've heard it's been really bad recently, but I've
yeah.
been to, yeah, I had family or in San Francisco, so I've been to.
South Oakland's pretty tough. And there's the port side of it that's got a really cute little neighborhood. And then downtown's pretty tough. And then up on the hill in Montclair is pretty nice. So different neighborhoods. So let's go on here. Let's see what else here. So Mark made the timely payments for the first 6 months, but then he defaulted due to financial setbacks. Somebody kept stealing all his materials, apparently. I don't know. That's the scenario. I'm joking. The lender had to navigate the California foreclosure process, ultimately recovering their investment through a successful property sale. So let's see what happened here. Understanding the foreclosure and process. The California follows a non-judicial foreclosure process. This is what we were just talking about, meaning the lender can foreclose without going to court through the trustee. You give them permission with the deed of trust, and they have signed and they agreed to a non-judicial foreclosure, and we can go to sale without that, and they get a trustee's deed. Typically, the timeline ranges from 120 days to 200 days from the first missed payment to the foreclosure sale, which you and I talked about a little while ago. I was talking about this kind of foreclosure, a foreclosure that's non-judicial. The process is handled by a trustee, not the lender, and requires proper notices and waiting periods. Again, we talked about that. In a note secured by a deed of trust, there's a third party. We talked about this in our first time we talked, our first lesson and our second lesson. The third person is the trustee. The trustee collects the payments. The trustee does the foreclosure. The beneficiary, that's you, the lender, they tell the trustee what they want done, communicate. They could say, hey, I'm okay with a forbearance. I'm okay with a payment arrangement. Nope, foreclose it. You as the beneficiary, you're in control. The trustee has to do what you tell them to do. The borrower has agreed to, in writing, several different things, and they can go back when they're in foreclosure and make the contract whole again by catching up all the payments, which is the best thing to do. And they have several steps that they can take to make their life better. But if they don't do those things, then the trustee can foreclose on the instructions of the lender or the beneficiary. Okay, so let's go on to here. Sending notices and working with the trustee. I hope this isn't going to explain what I just explained, but let's see. Mark missed his fourth payment, triggering a notice of default recorded with the county. Okay, so you understand how that works, right? The notice of default is recorded at the county recorder's office, becomes public record. It's a notice to Mark and everyone else that this property is in default. Amanda's Private Lending worked with their trustee to ensure legal compliance. Okay, yeah, you want to make sure that that's there, which is why I would grab the NOLO book on this and have that at my ready, because you want to make sure you are hiring somebody to do a job. But in my experience in life is I have hired literally thousands of people, and literally a handful have done what they've said they were going to do the right way the first time. So you have to trust but verify everybody you hire. So you need to know this information as an investor. You need to know, okay, they need to send this notice, and you and I were talking about it. We don't know the exact dates. I think both of us better get right on top of that. Right? Get that under control. So we want to get those exact dates down. Borrower, let's see here. They worked with them. The borrower had 90 days to cure the default. So that's the amount of back payments, back interest, back penalties. They have 90 days when you file the notice of default